Hello everybody, it is Robbie from Southern California, and this is the mid-March garden tour. With everything going on, I figured we still need to do this tour. I did a live show yesterday, and I'm going to go through the garden and tell you what is going on. I think I'm a little slow on some things, but I'm quick on others. Here is a broccolini. Look how quickly it is taking off. It's really kind of quadrupled in size, I think, since the last one from 2 weeks ago. I've got a tomato plant back there on the chair. Anybody can grow. It's like having those upside down planters or a planter or a raised bed. Anybody can grow on a chair. That tub could be twice the size sitting on that chair. Remember, a chair is designed to hold 200 to 300 pounds. So you could put something substantial on there and grow some nice food. But today we're just doing a garden tour. Things are starting to shape up in the front yard. I'm going to keep walking back. The thing is, I'm not really going crazy into starting to plant a lot of seeds. I've done some test seeds and I planted a true zucchini down here, but it's still struggling. And probably because there's a few nights we have been dropping down under 50 degrees. And they don't like under 50 degrees, but it doesn't matter. In the meantime, I am planting other things and cleaning things up. The fig tree is now gone. And the fig tree, oh, that's lovely. And keep in mind, I come out here and do things in my garden tour without looking, and my tree collard that I just planted is gone. This was chomped off in half. Okay, so I'm going up. That was a purple tree collard too. I really didn't see this. This is the way I do it. I have not been in my garden. I don't know what I'm going to find. That was a purple tree collard. There's nothing wrong with it. So what I'm going to do is cover that with tulle. I now know that the deers came in last night and ate. Let's see if it's on the ground. Nope, they ate the entire top off. See how they bit it? A clean bite? That is a clean bite. So the deer did come through last night. They seem to like my front yard. So they came through. They probably come through the hillside over there. And then they can come up here when you don't see them. And they chomp around. Thank goodness they didn't get to my broccolini. But you know, that gives me an idea. I may cover the broccolini. Let's see. Let's walk around real quick. Because what I did was I grabbed my camera. They said it's raining, but it really isn't raining here yet. Yeah, they chopped off a little bit here. See the clean cut? That's what they tend to do. They just come down and they bite. And their teeth, like a horse, boom, they clean cut. So they ate a little bit of that. They didn't touch anything here. I haven't really grown anything new in here. There's a squash seed coming up. Because it's still struggling, that's why I'm not going to really overplant squash and zucchini. I'm going to have to apologize. With everything going on, my throat is dry. I've been doing a lot of talking to my parents, my brother, my sister, my kids. So it's just been, my throat is dry. That's all. So I'm fine. I'm having an orange, 3 oranges a day, trying to keep that vitamin C from our garden, you know, into my body so I can stay healthy. I hope. I can only do the best I can do. All in all, everything looks really good, and I am planting. You know what? I worked in my garden yesterday. I did a 2-hour almost live show. Didn't plan on that on YouTube, and then I came into the garden and I worked my tail off. These are cuttings, and isn't this beautiful? Look, look, look. These are cuttings off my purple sprouting broccoli, so we definitely want to probably think about covering that. For some reason, they don't touch the broccoli, but they're going after the kale, the deer. So I don't know, but they're doing really good. So I think I'll get some more cuttings off. Now they see how good that's growing. And I've started to work more on my bricks again. See how I've done that? Those are like soup containers. Let's see if we can get in there. Soup containers, and that will hold water, and those are deep. And this is garlic chives growing in there. Gives a little more soil, so if you're watering inside bricks like this, the soil just won't disappear. It can't really go anywhere. And then you can cover it with wood chip soil, potting soil, anything you want. Regular native soil. See what the deer did last month? Oh, they came back again. It was bigger yesterday. So they did come through last, oh no. It was beautiful yesterday. Oh, that's not good. They actually pushed the tool down. You know, deer are big. So I'm going to have to really think about this. I don't want to chase them off. You know, that is just green sorrel. And here's another one. So for whatever reason, they took a liking to the green sorrel. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to deter the deer right now. You know, I would love to see them. I should just check my cameras, but then I'm going to have so much sitting in front of ours to see when they came through. But I might. Knowing that they ate my purple tree collard, I might see if I can find it on the camera, but it'd probably be next to impossible, really. I just don't have the time. All right, so the front yard is doing good. I plan on getting a lot growing right now. Being there's a short supply of everything in the grocery stores, and we're good with a lot of canned soups. And the reason I went with canned soups, and I discussed that in that 2-hour live feed we did, was you can do a lot with it. I don't even like soup, but I can do a lot with it. I can make mashed potatoes on the side if I wanted to, and then I can load my soup up with greens from the garden, potatoes and different things, and maybe a little chicken or a little shrimp or a little fish or whatever you want to put in, and you can end up making it like a stew in a matter of minutes. So it's quick also. But all in all, the front garden's going good. I'm going to be doing a lot of work in there. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with the deer. I'll see what they pick and choose. I'm going to cover the purple tree collard over there because it's still alive. It's just going to grow now like a bush, and that's perfectly fine. I don't need it. It wasn't food I can't live without, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I will cover it. The chair, I'm going to clean up the chair here. I really, really want to take out that tomato plant. And the reason I want to take out the tomato plant is because it's not getting enough sun, but then I look at it and I see how beautiful it is, and it's making a comeback because I think the sun is starting to shift, so we'll get a little bit more sun. I will decide. The other thing to do, if I wanted to, I could have lifted this whole thing and move it and put another thing on the chair. This is a chair basically out of the trash, and it's just a container. You can get those at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Target. Everybody carries these, and you can make yourself a garden. Look at this. I have been picking this constantly. This is beautiful green Swiss chard. I've got Swiss chard in there. I think I've got a little bit of stevia back there. I've got some garlic chives in there. I've got different things growing. You can grow herbs, a lot of different things on a simple chair. Again, so many people ask me about the raised beds I have. They're called upside down planters. Those things are over $100. I bought them because I got them for like $5, $2.50. They were blowing them out. Let's keep walking. And they're a waste. There's not enough room to grow anything in. I only bought them because they were dirt cheap. You could do much more with the chair. So much more. It's unbelievable. Okay, over here, I still have a lot of it in Gary's room. In that room, he fixed up like a greenhouse in the house. So nothing's going to be growing in here right now because this is all ginger and turmeric. The only thing coming up, which was a surprise, is the stevia. Yeah, the wall is on the warm side, so the stevia is coming up. And this is the purple tree collard I bought on eBay. There were 3 that I got sent to me and only 1 made it. So I'm going to have to be very careful the deer haven't found this one because this one's special and the other ones were from CPG. Gary got for like 50 cents, $1. I can't remember. It was really cheap, really cheap. These containers too, these tomatoes from the cold, subsided from all the cold. They finally went. I'm going to cut them down and put something completely different in here. In other words, these plants are going. I don't need these plants. Oh, look at this, peppermint. We need to make a lot of peppermint. This can go. This is a waste. Need to start throwing away things that don't work. Get rid of them, recycle them, do something else with them. Let's get that mint growing because right now food is important and I want to get as much food as we like to eat growing. Okay, let's go now into the front gates and let's go see my garden. So I'm now just walked into the garden and this is where I was working. You can see I pulled out the last of my old dinosaur kale that was dead. So I'm going to chop that down. I might actually take this branch from it. It's like 5 years old, 4 years old, and trim it up and I might make it a bird perch. So I'll see what happens with that. This is getting very close to planting in squash. Any type of squash. I don't care right now if it's a hybrid or whatever. They all taste good. More sorrel. See, I cover that. Nothing can get to that. And there's also walking onions in there, walking onions down there. So I'll trim this up and decide if I want to put this out for a perch, maybe attach it somewhere and the birds can have someplace to land. and then compost the rest of the, pieces from it, the bark and some of the small branches. This is, again, you've seen this over and over. It's a collard that came up. Now it's starting to rain. I can feel it. That is probably a hybrid because of the shape of the leaves. Of course, I'm leaving that. It's doing good. I have freshened it up. I started going through it. I planted a broccolini down there. I've got to clean out the oregano back there. This is all going to be cleaned up. This is all being moved. I might leave the red container here, so this is a place in the spring and the summer as things start to grow more, because we're not in spring yet. I'll have a place to put, what I want to compost, but I don't know where I want to put it. So I keep one container for that. I am keeping my one and only dinosaur kale that is now about 5 years old. It's got its damages. If I would have, staked it, I could have probably saved it even better than that, but it is doing okay. The leaves are small. The birds love sitting on it, nibbling on it. So I am leaving that, and I've cleaned it up, took the branch off on this side. So now it just spreads along that fence there from side to side. So we're leaving that. Like I said, I worked a lot in here yesterday. Cleaned this all up. Anything dead came out, and again is being broken down to turn into compost. It doesn't matter whether it's branches, leaves, twigs, all that will break down. And a lot of times I put that on the very bottom of a container. So when a container is that size, I might break up a lot of branches, put that on the bottom, and then cover it with whatever I'm going to use for growing. Branches are good because your holes won't block up, and it takes time to break down. You don't want to put a bunch of native soil if you've got clay on the bottom of your pots, because it will cake up and then your pots won't drain. So I have found a lot of branches work really, really good. And in the meantime, and I put in collard leaves down there. In the meantime, the worms they come up into the holes, or they'll crawl into the containers, and they'll get into the soil, and they'll just do their thing and break it down slowly, and then you're growing on the top. Red vein sorrel doing really good. More dinosaur kale. It's trying to go to seed. I don't know if I should stop it by cutting off the tops. It would probably just send more shoots on the side out. I'm not sure yet. I could cut it up and put it in soup if I wanted to. So I'll decide, but it looks beautiful. Look at the color. Isn't that color beautiful? It's so green, it's almost blue. Let's see, let's look over here real quick before I forget. I guess it's a piece of tree collard I had put in that upside down patio garden year ago, or it wouldn't have been a year ago, it would have been in the summer, because it's starting to grow. So I'll have to figure out, because where I want to put it. I can take pot and all, bust that bottom of the pot and put it somewhere, because it's going to be way too big for that. And then there's a baby red vein sorrel. I stuck one in there. I moved it from something else, I believe. It's growing, walking onions. This is all celery. Notice how when you leave it clumped up, they don't grow. And they kind of they're overcrowded, so they don't grow. They stay small. But if I separate out the little celery piece by piece, they'll take off into big plants. And this is just pieces of sprouting broccoli, and they rooted really good, and they've been growing. I can move that. This, I believe, is not tree collard. I think this is a cutting off a regular collard, again in a pot. So I might move that, and a pepper plant that stayed all winter back there. 2 little pepper plants. Now this is hot pepper. I'll figure out as time goes on what I'm going to do, and then the tomato that made it through. And this is a whole bunch of cuttings in there of my old dinosaur kale before I took it out. So that's really good. And look back here. I worked yesterday. Look how beautiful. I cleaned this all up. I was debating on this thing if I was going to take it off, because it is struggling, but for now I'm going to leave it. And I've got walking onions in there, a little celery I moved to the side there, and then I've got the purple dazzling blue kale. Back there is garlic chives, celery that looks like it already, that looks like it's a celery or it's a flat leaf parsley. Celery I have found here has cross-pollinated with parsley, and I get these things that kind of look odd, but you know what? It's good to eat, so we'll see. That's a big old walking onion. See how I can't get back here through the chair, only because I didn't move the chair. See how big the leaves are? It's an old one. So what I might do is put some small walking onions in there, and then eventually just take the old one out, use the small bulb and everything. This got moved. This was from a different part of the yard, the curly leaf kale. Put that in there, again cutting from dinosaur kale. And then this is my lemon verbena. Let me step back. I'm stuck now. I climbed over the chair. And I trimmed that back. I really wanted to move it. I can move the chair for a minute and show you. Now I'm really swinging you around. But it was so embedded, the roots. And I didn't want to move the whole tub, that I decided to leave it because it does so well. Trim it all the way back like I did. And then I can still put the chairs here, and we'll see what happens. I have a lot of lemon verbena, but I don't want to take it out. So I'm basically done here. I'm completely done. Now over here is where I'm going to start working more and more. See, I've got a lemon verbena here, I've got a lemon verbena here, and one more on the other side of the yard. So I'm going to trim a lot of this. Again, old dinosaur kale coming out of this flower pot all the way there. The deer have not come into this yard as far as I know. So we'll see what happens, but they haven't come into this yard. All right, now on the dragon fruit, the plant, I really was going to have Gary take it out, but I re-pushed it through, pushed it on the back, and I'm going to see if I can direct it on the back of my garden, because that fruit is magnificent and this plant is doing so well. So instead of having Gary take it out, I think I'm going to leave it. So we'll see what happens with the dragon fruit. But it's got to be careful. It winds all over, but it's in a pot and it's got very large holes on the bottom. You can't really see it back there. And when you water it, the water goes directly to the roots. So I think that's why this one's doing so much better than some of them that are straight into the ground. So like I said, I've decided to leave that right now. And now it's not in my way. I'm going to trim this a little bit more, my lemon verbena here, and then the birds have been going nuts eating all the greens. So I'm not going to worry about that, because all the pieces that they leave, I can compost, and even things like this. This is your greatest compost. Kale and collard are the greatest compost. Breaks down and creates the best food I have found for the garden. This is the purple sprouting broccoli. This is the one that's out front that I took cuttings off of because, well, look at that. I did not take care of it. So instead of growing the one plant, it ended up with two massive trunks. So I've got one going that way. All over, all that is purple sprouting broccoli. And then you've got this one that's split off into a dozen different branches, and it just took off everywhere. So when I get, whoops, almost tripped over a pot. When I get over to this area, I'll decide how I want to do it, because I was going to move the strawberry tower, and with everything going on, I think I'm not going to waste my time this year moving this strawberry tower. I might actually put seedlings in there. Maybe I'll separate the celery. I'm not sure yet. I'll see what I decide. Maybe parsley and put it in there. And then as I find other places for it, I could take it out of that. So I could almost create a nursery out of that. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll put strawberries in there, but I don't know what's in the nurseries right now. I have not gone to check any nurseries out. I'm sure they've got plants, but I do know that a lot of people are buying more plants than they've ever bought before. I mean, I've got my sister-in-law out there buying all kinds of big plants to put in her garden. This is people that really never had a garden much to speak of, and now it's so important to her with everything going on to have fresh food that you can add to the food that you've bought and you're storing. So she's got a raised bed she ordered, and she's ordered potting soil. I hope she gets it, because a lot of things are out of stock. My brother ran. He didn't even know. They both run in different directions. He went shopping. He came home with a bunch of seeds. There's a lot of things that grow pretty quick. You would say, well, there'll be plenty of food in the stores by the time they grow. First of all, we don't know. And second of all, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Once you get in the mood to start growing a garden and you start reaping the benefits out of there, you are going to be completely in a different world, because you'll feel so much better. Believe you me, I feel better eating food out of my garden than I ever did eating anything else. And there's times I have to force myself, because I'm a junk food junkie too. So there's times I start to get down and I don't feel that great, and I realize, I really haven't eaten enough. I go through the garden, I grab a bunch of grains, throw them in my blender. I don't have a juicer. Throw it in the blender. I have a mad method of the way I do it. And I'm going to tell you, within hours, I feel 100% different. Let me see what's here. So it's real. Believe you me, it's absolutely real. It really gives you a lot of energy. I have made a few of these planters. This one is a very small one to put some flowers in. I'm going to put some walking onions in there. That is just simply a container from the dollar store. That costs $1. And then some stakes. They're stuck in the pot. I'm going to plant some stuff down there. This is another one. This pot costs between $1 to $2. That's just simply sitting in a tomato cage. And I've got some, flowers in there also. And then I just had this old wire chair thing and set that up. Trying to mix a little bit of flowers. I think what I'm doing, and I know I've talked about it, that I don't care what my garden looks like as long as it's got food. Well, being that I'm basically on lockdown, I think I want to have more color, and my color is important to me. See, all this is walking onions, and we've got some regular chocolate mint, strawberry mint. I don't use that for anything. In dire need, I would, but otherwise, I've got enough. And then more chocolate mint down here. Basically, since I am going to be on lockdown, probably for a while with everything going on, it's safer. The least I go out, the better. This is all spearmint. I want it to look nice. I think I want to enjoy myself, watch the birds, and that kind of brings a little joy. I think I've even hung Christmas lights, just a strand of Christmas lights out my window. Actually, it was long enough. Gary and I fixed it up, so now it's like 3 strands going in and out the window, and it looks really cool. I would like to see people put Christmas lights out, just a strand, kind of to bring color and joy and to know that better times are coming. We're just got a little struggle right now, but I think all in all, if we stay calm, we can make it through, because you don't want your adrenaline going crazy on what's going on, because that brings your immune system down. Look, I may sound calm, but don't kid yourself. I go into panic mode too, but I also pull myself back and think about what I need to do, and that's what I'm doing. I'm thinking about what I need to do. I am trimming back this tree. It looks like a tree. It's a sprouting broccoli. I've left a little bit of the seeds for the birds because they need it, but I'm going to trim a lot of this back. I do want see what I've done here? I'm keeping all this because this is all going to be chopped and gone into my compost. It's not my compost bins. It's my containers I plant in. I just keep layering. I am going to trim a lot of stuff back and make sure that more food I've got is productive. As much as I want it to just grow and less care, it doesn't take that much care to trim things back. That is my curry plant, and then there's a collard back there. So I am going to be doing more thinking of what I want to grow and get things cleared out. Even in here, I've got a lot of weeds growing in here. This is just wild grass and stuff growing in here. So all that's going to come out, clean that up, throw a bunch of kitchen scraps right on top. Literally, get the weeds out, drop in there. That's what I'm going to do. And throw kitchen scraps and leaves, dump it on top. And remember, I've said this over and over, anything on the top does not break down. Nature does not bring its critters there to break down anything on the top. What breaks down is anything underneath. So if you laid something on top, underneath would start to break down. So what I'm going to do, like I did in some of the other bins that are starting to grow, is I'm going to take out the weeds, I'm going to dump a bunch of kitchen scraps in there. If we have bananas, banana peels. And I told Gary at this moment, I am now no longer throwing away any chicken bones. I am going to compost it all. That's the way I'm doing it, because it does bring nutrients to the soil, and if I have to, I will put it in an area where I know nothing's going to get to it, or I will bury them deeper. But nothing is getting thrown out right now. I have to be frugal on what is going on. So I am going to be composting here. If I had to, I would cover it. We'll see what happens. And then on the top, I will either take wood chips or just soil. I can just go and dig any good soil and cover it. Everything covered is going to start to break down immediately, and it's going to turn into soil. The other thing I do is, as you see pots in here, I can put pots on top of the compost that's breaking down. I can still grow in it. Squash, tomatoes, peppers will all grow directly in raw compost breaking down. They love that. They just grow like wildfire. But maybe some of your other plants will not. So on top of that, you put a flower pot. Any pot with holes that has well drainage on top of your compost that you're breaking down now in whatever container or the ground, and grow in the flower pot. By the time that new plant takes off, it will send its roots down, and you'll have all those microbes that have developed great soil right underneath, and they'll send their roots down into that even as it's breaking down. I have videos on that. I don't want to get into that, or I will be here for another couple hours. Oh, some of my solar panels fell. Not that we need it. The sky is gray. But that's just the way I do it, and I've already lost my train of thought on that. So I'm going to be getting a lot of the pots in. So I've told you that. There's, just put the pots on top. If you're in doubt that some of the stuff you're planting will grow, just put a pot on top. See, I've got layers. Layer, layer, layer. This is a red celery, and we just chopped it down. It still has a little bit of the seed head left. I'm going to chop that out and compost that. And it's come back from the base because it has it's like a bulb, but it's not like a tuber. It's beautiful. Look at that. So I have now already well-established red celery. And then this came up from seed. Gary asked me what it is. I don't know. It's a very odd-looking plant. It tastes really good. There's a possibility it's a cross between a collard and a dazzling blue kale, because both of those went. So there's my really big dazzling blue kale. That went to seed. It's going to seed again. And so did the collard plant. This is just back here is a basic collard plant. And there were seeds everywhere. See, there's a couple of them. So it's probably a cross. So what would you call it? I don't know. Dazzling collard. See how the leaves are interesting, because the dazzling blue kale has long leaves, but the collard does not. It's so bright green. So it doesn't matter. It's edible. It tastes great. It grew in my garden, which means it is a happy camper here, and that is the perfect plant to grow. So I'm going to clean that up, get the tomato plants up, compost in place. Being that the plants are already situated in there and growing, I don't have to worry about putting flower pots or anything in there. The only reason I'd maybe put a small flower pot in there, and I'll have to explain that visually, is if I wanted to grow some walking onions or something separate, keep it away from that, maybe just for fun. Plus, any flower pot creates dampness, so if it gets hot, when it gets hot, it will help the plants, retain some water in there. But otherwise, I can compost in place right in this container, right with those plants next to it, and then throw some potting soil, native soil, anything right on top of whatever I dump in there, so it will immediately start to break down. So when I get to this section, that's what I'm going to do. This is all spearmint. And what I'm going to be doing, and I am doing, is making a lot of mint tea, pots of mint tea, and then I'm freezing them. So in my busy day, I forget sometimes, or I think, too much work. I can grab an ice cube out of the freezer. I'll have it in bags, and I will have my mint tea, and I don't have to make it every day. So that's what's going on here. Let me swing around real quick. And this is the pepinos. They're starting to come back. Look at all the flowers. I want to clean this all up. So we'll see when I get to, I haven't got to this part of the year. Oh, kitties. We didn't go into kitties. Let's walk real quick over here. And I have been taking from Kitty's little garden that I set up. See, look at all this. Again, this looks like a hybrid, but we've got some Swiss chard. It's overcrowded. I'm going to have to get in here. There's a lot of seeds coming up. Looks like possibly celery. Celery grows like a weed. This thing went to seed. Let me see what this is. Okay, this is lettuce. Lettuce is valuable to me. Here's another lettuce. Because my romaine lettuce that grows here now grows like a weed. So I'm going to have to collect some of that, let the birds have some of it, and get that growing. And yeah, there is a lot of lettuce, and then they've got more. That looks like a tree color. Oh, I might have put a tree colored in there, a couple of them, so they're growing. But hers is doing all in all really, really good. Just threw it together really quick. The lettuce that grows here grows like a weed, so I collect those seeds. I can sprinkle them anywhere, and when they come up in clumps, they're really easy with a little spoon or fork to pull out and plant anywhere you want. Once you separate them, they just take off into a big plant. If you don't separate them, they stay kind of clumped up and they stay really small. But they can last for months in the state of kind of suspension of being small until I move them. So it works out really good, but I do want to get a lot of lettuce growing because it grows so fast. Once you put it in wherever you want, separate them a good 5 or 6 inches apart, they just take off into good big plants. So that's important to me. That's an important staple because of how quickly it grows. Got to clean this up too. I want the sweet potato out. In fact, I looked in here and I think there is look at this. Let's see. Little sweet potatoes. I want it out. Gary grows sweet potato. I don't need it. I would rather grow either tomatoes or maybe some squash. To me, I do a lot more with squash, so I plan on putting squash in here. My green beans, I shoved a couple seeds in here. We had green beans last night. There's more. Look at this. I have green beans. Oh my goodness. Okay, and this is one plant. Look at that. I didn't even see this last night. I've been coming out every day and it's so simple. I just chop it up, put it in some minute rice I'm making, and then it's a whole recipe. I'll have to get that out. Gary just loves it. So I want to get green beans growing because they grow so quick also. I'm looking for quick growing plants along with other plants too. My sage is back there and I use that for my pizza I make. And then here, all this has to be cleaned up. Yes, it's got black fly. Look at this is black fly. I know that you deal with that in the UK a lot. I don't worry about it. If you noticed, I'm not using this to eat right now. If you notice, the plant looks fine. It just has to be cleaned up. It's got a lot of dead leaves. And what's interesting on that is the moment we finally change the weather and it dries out, all the black fly just disappears. And by the way, you can just wash that off too with a hose. They'll come back, takes a few days to come back, but I don't worry about it because I know that the moment our weather changes, the black fly is totally gone and I don't see it anymore until winter, until we have this damp, cold weather. All in all, everything is the same here. That's a tree collard back there that's kind of gone sideways. See how it's gone sideways? So because it's gone like that, it's growing all these new shoots up, which is fine because that is fabulous to eat. It actually tastes a little bit better to me than regular collard. It has less of a bite to it, and I really like it. Again, another seed that came up from the dazzling blue kale. And see, this one's different than the other one. This one does show blue, so it might be slightly more true. I don't know, but I'm going to cater to all of that, and all of that can stay. Red vein sorrel, this is the one that went to seed and threw seeds everywhere, and there is new plants growing back there, see? And look at all, oh my goodness. Look at all the seeds there. Now, it's not something I sit down and eat a whole bowl of. So it's not something I'm really, going to grow a ton of it. I'm just letting it do its thing right now. What you can sit down and eat a whole bowl of course, is lettuce and kale and collard. But with this, you kind of add this into things. I add this into the green drink. I add this into my rice if I'm making rice. I add this into my stew. You don't add tons for no particular reason. I don't. So I don't need a ton of it, but I definitely want to keep it because I definitely like it. And being it has red, I know it's got a lot of nutrients in it, anything with red. So that's basically it here. The eggplant is making a comeback. I'm starting to get this thought about what I'm going to, oh, interesting. Oh, no. You better not be mint. It's not mint. I don't know what's growing in there. I'll have to check that out. Might be tomatoes. That's what happens when you compost. That's what I said. Tomatoes will grow in raw compost. You dump it, they'll grow if there are seeds in there. So will squash when the time is ready. It's warm in this bucket, and that's what's creating all this to grow. It's tomatoes. It is warm in there. So they think they're in a greenhouse, and I'll see if I want to move any or just go on with whatever tomatoes I want to grow. Here's the eggplant. We have been using eggplant. You can see there's some eggplant on there. See it right there? And that's starting to come up. I'm going to freshen this up. I've been tossing leaves in there and I will top it. See that leaf on the top will not break down until I get it covered. But all the leaves underneath are breaking down. I'm in no hurry. I'm not here yet. And there's my lemon verbena back there. See that? That's my last plant. It's kind of squished in there somewhere. When I get back there, I'm going to clean that up a little bit better. I need to be able to get to those 3 containers because this year, no joke, I need to make sure I can get to everything because food's important. What we did yesterday is I went to a friend who, his wife is pregnant. They've got twins, and we brought him a whole bag of oranges. You know how our orange tree, it's raining. See, Gary was ripping off oranges. He was in such a hurry yesterday. This tree was so full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of oranges. He picked a whole bunch of buckets that he froze some. There's still some down there underneath, and he got them to them for their kids. We want to make sure their kids stay healthy and they stay healthy, and we brought them oranges, and that's all we could do is try to help out right now our friends and neighbors the best we can. So all in all, there's plenty of food. even though I haven't really planted too much, there's tons of food in my garden. I am not worried about it in any way. That's the big massive tree collard. There's another one back there. There's two here. Of course, this one that left the pot. This one is so big, at some point it will have to come out. But every single one here is a new plant. And so that's why I've got some new plants around, because I broke off a piece and then planted more. When it struggles and when it starts to go, it turns purple. It's not a purple tree color. That's just what it does. It just creates that color, but all in all, it is really a green one. So the leaves, before they dry, they go a little purple. But there's another one back there. So we have a couple of them back there. So we've got it is raining. I'm trying to do this before my camera gets too wet. All in all, everything is going good here. This is more purple sprouting. Oh, look, did not see that yesterday. We have little bits of purple sprouting broccoli coming through. I don't know if I'm even going to bother with that or leave that for the birds right now. Gary's still feeding the birds in here. And again, I have explained that. The reason we do it that way is if they're fearful for the hawks, and we do have a hawk nest on the property now. Not much I can do about that. Looks like it's a Cooper hawk. But Cooper hawks generally do not go after birds. Hopefully they're doing rats and other things. It's your other smaller hawks that will go after them. They swoop. They can't swoop through a dog crate like this. That's not the way they hunt. So they can't swoop in and get a bird. So the birds are safe and they can go in and out. They're safe until they get out. So that's basically it on that. And that's why we have this. And it's worked out really good. I have not seen any hawks around here. This is that old collard that I've got down here. See, it started down there and then it winds all over the place. I'm going to trim it up but not take anything out yet, because it does produce a lot. Take all the yellowing leaves. That is the best compost you could do. And then back here I'm starting to load in leaves. I'll put kitchen scraps in there. I don't know if we'll have potatoes to put in there, peels or banana peels. You can't get that stuff right now, so we'll see. Whoops, gotta watch where I walk. And we'll go little by little. But I am working on my yard. That's the biggest thing I'm going to do. And this has been struggling with the cold, say. So it will make a comeback, but it is struggling. This is a strawberry papaya, and this one is struggling right now because we've been unusually cold again. Strawberries, I'm going to clean this up. This is starting to grow strawberries. Clean all this up, get all the dead stuff off, and freshen this one up. I don't think I'll be buying strawberry plants this year. We'll have to see how time goes. Again, a ton of young walking onions in there. And it does have a lot of black fly. It can simply be washed off. I could take each plant off and wash it out, and pull it out, wash it, and then plant it somewhere else. When I get to it, it's a private jet. When I get to it, I'll worry about it at that time. It's not killing the plant. Here it doesn't. But it does, the plant will struggle with it. So I'm not worried about it. I've got tons of this stuff. I collected as many baby walking onions this last year as I could. So I've got different places, and Gary's going to get a lot planted. Same thing back there. And this is my moringa, which is slowly making a comeback. He didn't get all the pods off. He was going to, but he didn't quite get it all off. It is making a comeback. He probably will top it a little more. He did do a lot of trimming, but I told him the birds have been hanging out on it. And I like the idea they can come into the garden. See, I don't have any trees in the garden. And they do hang out in the great big kale and stuff. But I said, let's leave that one right now for the birds, and I'll see what happens. All in all, I think that's it. I want to clean up my tomatoes here. Another moringa. So we'll see what happens with this moringa. Last year I topped it a little bit. I'll see. And then, of course, I've got these tubs. This one, whatever I'm not eating, I have to get a little bit more frugal on stuff. I want to break off piece. I'm not going to eat that, let's say, and I want to start using that for compost, and I want to get this tub set up and get something planted in here. Let's step into the room here for a moment. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here, but we do have, I just saw some tomatoes. So we do have tomatoes starting to grow in here, but we need this out. This tomato plants really, they'll last and they'll grow tomatoes in this room. And look, they're even flowering. But the thing is, they really need to be outside. And I'm hoping that our weather is starting to stabilize. Here's moringas that we grew, and they're doing good. This is stevia. That's doing good. He's got some trees he's working on. Here's a tomato plant that came up. Oh, and he's got some lemon verbena that he put in here. Look at this. He found this, by the way, this turnstile thing in the trash one day, years ago. So here's all kinds of the Malabar spinach, and then I had some more Malabar spinach in here, and he's got some lemon verbena he stuck in there just for fun to sprout this, get to root. But I don't need any more lemon verbena. More of his trees. He's got his vanilla vine in here, vanilla orchid, so that's whatever. And look at this. My first ginger is growing. This is ginger, see? Look at that. So I've got ginger starting. I don't see anything else growing. No black turmeric yet. No other ginger. I'm going to get more ginger and turmeric planted because it's so important. This is a cutting I did off my thyme, and we were a little concerned with all the cold weather, so he brought it here, but it did really good, and it's going to go outside. I have a big plant that I bought, a good sized pot for what, $4, but I did a cutting right away, and that was really good. So now I've got 2 thyme plants. Another moringa. The pepper is struggling. It really needs to get outside. I've got a place for it, so we're going to get that outside. And he's not sure. He said something's been chomping on this. There might be a little critter living in there, and there might be some worms or something. I'll take that outside. That's stevia, and we'll go from there and see what happens. All right, let's step back out of here, and let me close. He really shouldn't have door closed. I'm just going to close the screen door. And let's go through the gates right now and see what's going on in the backyard. We have sun again. It's cloudy, and I can see it's been raining. Well, I know it's been raining, but it's like it's kind of broken up. Here's our trees. This is, and you've seen it in some of the other videos. See the oranges back there? I'm going to have to say this. Last year in a lot of places in Southern California, a lot of people I talked to, including my daughter and my friend and my daughter's neighbor, people were breaking into their yards when they would go away and steal all their oranges. And not only just steal them, they would pull the branches down and break the trees. I think they were reselling them, but they were stealing them. So this year there's going to be a lot more problems. Gary's anticipating. He's thinking ahead. So he went out, and what he did yesterday is he removed hundreds of oranges. He literally peeled them last night, because they peel, so they're actually mandarins. He took the skin off and he froze them. So we have bags of frozen oranges for us to eat, because I have been hearing that the biggest things you could help to from getting a virus, prevent from getting a virus, is vitamin D. And like they said, it's been so cloudy for weeks and weeks. A lot of us aren't getting natural vitamin D. And the other thing is vitamin C. This is rosemary. Isn't that beautiful? I've got quite a bit of rosemary. I love my rosemary. So let me keep walking while I talk. So the thing is, a lot of people don't realize in big cities and big areas, if you're not getting oranges straight off of trees and they're coming from warehouses where the oranges have been stored or trucked, they're irradiated. And those irradiated oranges, you can look it up. I want you to look it up yourself. It's on YouTube. Done by the people that are doing this. There's no vitamin C in it. You have a lot of other nutrients in it, but vitamin C is the big one that it kills. So I want to make sure we have enough vitamin C off our oranges, and that's why we gave some away to people that have kids. And just wanted to make it important that they're more than welcome. And my other neighbor, all he wants, I told him, take all he wants. All right, going back, let's keep things on an uplift right now. There's enough going on, stressful things in the world. Okay, my papayas, they're doing pretty good. I want to move my orange trees, but I'm not planting any more orange trees. These are just some seeds that came up, and that pot does not have holes on the bottom. It has holes lifted. So those orange trees cannot set roots. I'm going to go ahead and plant them somewhere fairly soon. I didn't want to get into stuff like that I didn't need, but I think for fun, since they've struggled there for over a year, I'm going to move them. Back here are pomegranates that I grew from seed, and we had a lot of pomegranates last year, so we should have more. Here's a papaya again. They've got some damage from the cold, but all in all, they're doing pretty good. And you've seen this one that has long left the pot. There it is. And there was a rotten one on there. I had Gary take off the rotten one yesterday. I said, don't leave the rotten one on. So we threw that down here, and we used that for compost because they are heavy feeders. So if you're growing papaya, and let me tell you something, they grow really fast. So if you're growing papaya, do these bins, something like that I use. These bins have holes on the bottom. We compost in there. We pull their own leaves. If they've got a rotten fruit, we put it in there. Kitchen scraps, anything, and water it. And that goes and leaches into the ground, brings all the microbes, earthworms, and everything. Really feeds the plant. You won't even need plant food. It works perfect. Without that, we could not grow papayas. So all in all, everything here is doing fantastic. I set up my little area here. A friend of mine gave me her bench, and she said I could have it. She wanted it out of the yard. So I don't know if I'll paint it or what, but this is a nice place to sit and wait for the deer. I might do this in the summer. I might sit here under this massive tree. This is our pepper tree, the one I've talked about, that when we first got this property, the tree was practically dead, and half of it, mind you, half of it fell down the road here, gully, whatever you want to call it. And Gary said, I'm going to have to take that tree out. And it took him weeks and weeks to chop up that tree. This was before we were even gardening. And then after the wood chips came in, and my daughter had a water slide party here between the wood chips and the water, that tree took off, and now it's the tree of life. We have hummingbirds nesting in it. We have bush tits. I probably can't find it right now, but we've got bush tits right now nesting in it. I'm not sure where it is. There's a bush tit nest. They're nesting in it, and you know what's nesting in it right this minute? I saw her go in and sit down on her nest. I have a Cooper's hawk. So she's nesting in it. So I don't know if the hummingbirds will come in here and nest at the same time while she's in this tree. I'll walk around and show you where she is. But we'll see what happens. This tree with the goldfinches nest in it. So many birds. And of course you saw the wren last year nested in that box. And they only nest one time per year in one box, but they could come back this year. They don't double nest in the same location, wrens. They tend to move. So this is like, I call this the tree of life. And this is just so beautiful to sit under. And if I hear something crack, I either run, which it hasn't dropped any more limbs, but I'll either run or drop flat to the ground if I don't think I can run. Because remember, it can't go completely flat. But I love this tree. It's beautiful. So Gary's keeping an eye out on anything that may need to be trimmed on here. The Cooper hawk is on the other side, and we'll kind of go over there. It's hard to see because she really tucked it in really, really good. This has all been underwater, dried a little bit because we did not get that much rain yesterday. So it's drying up, but it's going to fill up again. He's got all this directed, so it knows exactly where it's supposed to go. So he has got all this directed in an area. Okay, my wall. The bathtub is gone. I think you saw that in the last garden tour. I have not gotten to this area at all. All this, the dead tomato plants through here, and all this dead stuff from the, this is a Swiss chard, the red Swiss chard. This is just dead stuff. This is all going to be composted. It's probably, most of that will be chopped up. And if you're composting big things, it's always good if you can, if you're in a hurry and you want to grow in it right away, chop it up smaller. The smaller you do it, the better it breaks down quicker. So I'm going to chop all that up when I get to it. I don't know if I'll put any more containers in there. I may or may not. That's the other moringa that never went completely dormant. It always had a few leaves on it. It's making a comeback, but I want to trim it back. I don't need it hanging here on my head, so I want to kind of direct it better. So when I get here, I'm going to chop it back a little bit. But I want to be diligent as to stuff I'm planting, and I was surprised here to see we've got already eggplant. Look at that on this one. Now this one came up on its own by seed, so it's not a big purple one. It's kind of a whitey purple, and it's fine. Gonna keep that going. There's a container in there, so I'll get something composted in there and grow. Maybe I'll grow beans and put something there, have the green beans go up. This is all going. This is last year's zucchini plants, those hybrids that grew in nothing. Look at that. There's still nothing in here, and they're still growing. Nothing in here. There was no soil ever got in. This is what it looked like, and kitchen scraps. And then I ended up with all these squash plants growing. So I want to freshen this up. See the seeds? What I was doing was just dumping in kitchen scraps, and the whole wall bursted into squash plants, hybrid squash plants. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine, but I'm not here yet. I'm going to do this very soon. Never even got to this one. I still have massive ones in the house I'm using. So I don't know. I'll either see if that's any good. I could bake it, or I'll just use that as compost, because squash, again, even that is beautiful, beautiful compost. And sitting there like that, when I break that open, it's going to have seeds. So if I really like the fruit, I'll think about it. I can grow some of that in there, because that's the way nature works. See, in nature, look how beautiful that is. It's been sitting there all winter. It's not doing anything, but what's happening inside, the plant is dead. It's not even attached to anything. I didn't even realize it. It's long gone off the plant. But by nature, it's going to sit there, and the seeds inside, it's like an incubator, are slowly growing. They're maturing. The seeds are maturing. The seeds aren't growing. I mean, they are growing, but they're maturing. They're not growing any green growth. Now, the moment the weather changes and the moment it's time, that squash plant, that squash, not the plant, that squash sitting there will rot. Insects will get to it. They'll devour it. Like there's one, I think, in here. See, the insects are trying to get to it. They'll get to it. They'll break it open. They're not going to eat the seeds. All the earthworms and the insects that are eating this and microbes are not eating the seeds. It's amazing. It's amazing how this works. They don't touch the seeds. The seeds will fall to the ground. Birds and stuff may pick some of them up, and then a bunch of them will get onto the soil. This will rot on top of the seeds. Like I said, squash, tomatoes, even peppers love rotting matter. And the moment that starts to rot, it will feed the seeds, and that's when the seeds will start to grow, and you'll see green plants actually growing and taking off. I got to move that before that happens. I don't want it to grow here. And then somebody asked me, what do you do with weeds? Oh, we already picked those. Nothing. I compost them. And that's what I'm doing. See, this is what nature's doing. They're working their way into that old squash I didn't pick. And once they work their way in there, it starts to fall apart. That squash is going to grow. And that's how nature works. That's nature. Nature is doing its thing, and it protected the seeds all winter. Because it wasn't time, it couldn't grow. If they would have had the insects come in this winter and do that, they couldn't grow. It would just, if they even started to grow, they would die. That's how it works. And that is how it all is, the cycle of life. Same thing here. All these are going. I know they look beautiful. They look like maybe they'll grow, but no, it's better to start fresh. I'm just waiting when I plant the seed here and there. If they're not growing that good, then it's not quite the right time. This is all, by the way, sow thistle, and it is edible. I'm just leaving it right now. It's, the birds eat it, and they eat the seed heads, so they're not in my way. And then again, I'm just starting the compost, even paper. I throw paper. If it's not shiny, I throw it in there now. You don't have to throw a ton of it, but a little bit, because the worms live in it. They devour it. The microbes get in there and devour it. My plan is, on this wall, to have the tubs going all the way across almost. So we'll see. I've got a few more tubs. I bought a bunch of those gray ones, and I'm cleaning up the garden using those tubs. And then I'm dragging them out here, and Gary's making holes in them. And let me swing around. Because of the pepper tree and the other trees around here, they send their roots out looking for water. So I keep these tubs where the holes are about 1 inch up. So they're not on the bottom. Let me repeat that. These tubs against the wall here, because I have a problem with, see, there's even a pine tree here. They send their roots into the tubs. And what it does is the tree root goes into the hole if it's on the bottom. It goes in there, and then they block the hole. They literally block the holes. You go to water the tub and the water doesn't leave, because it could be 10 holes. They'll do it to all 10 holes. So because of that, I don't want to deal with that. I'm having Gary make the holes up higher. I don't know if we finished over here to show you. Yes, see the holes? Those are the holes on the bottom. And it's impossible for the tree roots to do that, because the feeder roots cannot go up out of the ground and then go sideways. It doesn't work that way for, let's say, these pine trees and stuff. It just doesn't work that way. So they have no physical way of getting into my containers, the roots. But they can, and they will, plant their roots right underneath, so they'll catch the water underneath, and that's perfectly fine. But they cannot block my tubs, and I don't want them to block the tubs. These tubs are strictly for squash. I'm planning on getting peppers in there, and I can't put kale because the deer will come down and eat up all my kale. I don't need kale here, but it's basically stuff like that I'm going to grow, and I'll see as time goes what I'm going to put in there. Let's walk over here and I'll tell you what's going on here. This is my bathtub, and the reason that's set up is I came out here. You've seen the video probably. If you haven't, it's up there. I was taking some greens and stuff out of the truck bed, and I didn't know it was 6, but to make the long story short, 6 deer came out of this hillside that we have, and they just came up to me. They were literally feet from me, and it was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I didn't know what to do, and the only thing I do, they saw me. I'm standing right here by the truck bed, and they came right out, and they came right over here, and it's like, the only thing I can do is say, please, please, guys, don't move. That's what I said to him. Please stay here. And I turned around, ran so fast in the house. I had no camera. It was 6 o'clock, so it was dark that day. And that's what I was picking for dinner to add in. And they weren't coming for this. They were coming for the kale. But they don't like Swiss chard right now, which is good. They came down, I grabbed my camera, and I was lucky enough to be able to come back and get them on camera. And I sent that to my neighbor too to see that there was not just 1 or 2, there were 6. So that was exciting. So anyways, Gary's got his aloe vera growing, and he brought my bathtub here. I just found out he put water in it. And I'm going to put a solar fountain here. My neighbor gave me this. She was throwing it out. It's missing a tail. I don't care. With the baby sitting on there, and there's a hole in there. So I'm going to put this pipe inside, very simple, and we're going to have a solar fountain running. And then Gary wants to put possibly some mosquito fish in here. We'll see how he sets it up. He's got it all set up perfect. He can pull the cork, drain it, and then I can plant something here because this is where the water is going to drain. But we were thinking, let's help the deer out. There's no water around for them to get. We did see them. Gary saw them one day drinking out of the sprinklers out of one deer. A sprinkler of my neighbor's house. He has sprinklers. So they're looking for water. So we figured this summer, I got to make this quick. My camera's all wet. It is raining. They'll have a place to come. So when they come through here, right now, they're welcome. A lot of people said I'll feel bad afterwards. Well, you know what? Time will tell. We'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I'm a born and raised Los Angeles city girl, and I was excited to see a mouse. So can you imagine to see a deer come onto my property and come over is great and stand there in front of me. Well, the least we could do is give them some water. And then Gary told me to hike down here real quick. So before we finish this up, he's got his bees down there. You know that. And I'm not going to go bother the bees right now. Okay. These are all radish plants growing. I had a radish plant in my truck bed, and it went to seed, and he told me that all the seeds fell. And yes, those are radish plants. But I don't get a lot of radishes. I get more green growth. And I don't know, they might have hybridized with wild radish. We do have wild radish. So we'll have to see. Let's see what's under here. See, they get a red stem, but they don't get a lot of growth, but they may have hybridized. Let me try to do this without falling down the hill. Okay, they may have hybridized with the wild radish. I'm leaving these right now. I'll keep an eye on it and see if anything grows radishes, but radishes are not my forte. They don't seem to do that well for me. So I'm not worried about radishes right now. I do have carrots finally growing on the deck, but that's a different garden tour, so we'll see. Here's a pomegranate tree I had planted here from seed. So that's doing okay. I'm going to leave that. And of course, the truck bed. You know, there's no more avocado tree in here. I want to grow food that I need now. And I am going to set up some containers. I actually brought this one over. It's a trash can I think Gary found, and he cut it in half. See the holes? So I'm going to put that in here, and I might plant some squash in here. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. I do see a lot of seedlings coming up already. So I will decide what I'm going to do here. But I can just raise it up. So it gives me a little extra place to plant. I don't have to disturb the Swiss chard. And I just put that pot in there and then fill this pot up and plant something there. I think I'm going to do it that way because I get so much food out of this. So we were gonna level it, and I was thinking of leveling it and planting something else. But why would I want to level something, especially now, when I get so much food out of it? I have 3 varieties of Swiss chard that ended up growing here. I've got the green, I've got the one that's mixed green and red, and then I've got the red. So I'm going to leave it. Right now, and we're all dealing with this worldwide. There's a major food shortage. People are hoarding. I understand they have to because they're telling you not to leave your house. And no matter what, they can't bring in more food than they've got. So they're bringing in food into the stores as quick as possible. Again, I got to make this quick because it is raining. So we're all doing the best we can. I'm not going to the store. I've got enough. We're done. And I don't want to take anything out that's producing a massive amount of food for me, so I'm going to leave that. Here's my apple trees from seed. The deer haven't found those yet. They did munch off the leaves off of that one, but they didn't damage the tree, so we'll see what happens. And that's a little pomegranate tree. I don't know if I'll leave that or not, but for now I will. That's a loquat that came up in the truck bed. I just plucked it out, stuck it there, and it's growing. And this is a nectarine, a seedling from here. I'll see if it makes it. We have a nectarine tree on the property that the seedlings, the fruit falls and they grow, and in 2 years they grow, in less than 2 years. 2 years they grow fruit. So we'll see what happens. Gary had that in his way. So I said, then don't chop it out, bring it to me and I'll see what happens. So I planted that. And then this is an avocado tree. It's not grafted. It came up out of the wood chips because there was a pile of wood chips that came and they had bits and pieces of avocado, and there must have been a seed in there, and it came up on its own. And that's it. Let me get under the tree because my camera's all wet. So I've done my garden tour, and I was going to show you where the Cooper's hawk nest is. I almost forgot. And I'm trying to keep this upbeat because I know everybody worldwide is dealing with so many things, and all we can do is stay safe. I'm going to zoom in and show you. I know she's there because I sat here yesterday just to kind of take a break. She came onto her tree, onto her nest, and she did a call. And I didn't get the call, but I saw her go on there, and she's been sitting, and that's where they planted. That's where they built their nest. I didn't even see them build it. Didn't notice that, but that's why we have no ravens here at the time, now. And we couldn't understand. Usually every year we have a lot of ravens hanging out here, and they actually chase the coyotes out. But no ravens. So what happened was the ravens came in, Cooper's hawk came in, the Cooper's hawk won, the ravens left, and now this territory is hers. So the male's got to be here somewhere. She's sitting on the nest. They're probably taking turns anyways because those usually take turns. They both care for the babies and raise their babies, and we'll see what happens. So now we're going to have baby Cooper hawks. Oh my gosh, screaming and screaming. They come out, they perch them somewhere. If there's 2, they put them in different places, and then they just scream for mama all day. So we'll see what happens. It should be interesting. I don't remember having a Cooper's hawk. We've had a different hawk here before, a smaller one, but not a Cooper's hawk. So with that, all in all, everything is going good. I pray that everybody else is doing okay. Do keep certain foods in the house. We don't know what's going to be. Hopefully, whatever's going on everywhere, all parts of the world are different, that we all stay safe. We help our friends and family and neighbors out, and we just do the best we can. Try to keep an upbeat. Some people have asked me to do a midnight tea because I stay up late, and I might do something like that, just chit-chat and what's the day's been like, what's going on, and we'll see. I'm thinking about it. But right now, I'm going to run in the house because it's raining. Now it's not supposed to stop until maybe Friday, so we'll see. Please be safe, everybody. Please grow something. If you haven't grown anything before, think of fast-growing things, because even growing a pot of lettuce on a kitchen window or parsley, that little bit means a lot to your body because you've got true enzymes, true vitamins coming out of something you grew, and you can mix that with whatever else you're going to eat. So with that, have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. So there's the other half of the pear sitting on that tree there. And that's where the nest is, in that tree. That's the big pepper tree there. And the other half of the pear could be the male or the female. Probably the female is sitting. That one's very colorful. But she's sitting, let's say, right now, and he is just waiting, protecting. And they're waiting for their new offspring on the nest they just built on our tree. So with that, again, have a great day. Be well. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody.